Let's jump into it. I want to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy right out of the gate because to me that's the biggest thing. That's the thing I care about the most right now. I'm super pumped about it, and we were just gushing about this in our chat. So let's just carry that over into here. I'm curious. I'll start with you, Kyle, because you said that you were kind of the same boat as me, expecting it to be pretty fun. And I don't know if your expectations were tempered by Avengers like mine were, because I saw Avengers and thought this looks like it could be pretty fun, and the demo. Or was there a demo or a beta? I feel like there was something I got to try
there was
out.
like a beta or something, yeah.
And I was like, this is pretty fun. And then when I played it, that was the vibe I got the whole time through. This is pretty fun. Even though I've been a big critic of the mission structure in the second half of the game, I still thought that game overall was pretty fun. It lands in that solid like 7 out of 10 category.
Swimming in sevens. Yeah.
The story I thought was still pretty good, start to finish, and characters were interesting. It's just that game really hit a rut of repetitive combat and missions, and I was just trying to get through it by the end. So I thought Guardians will be the same way. That's not been my experience. What about you? What do you think about this game so far?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty high on it. I take the same philosophy I do in the movies. I look at the crew, like, hey, has this crew done good stuff before? Yeah. All right. Well, this is probably going to be pretty good. Now that failed with
folks
Avengers.
Who don't know who is the
the Deus Ex team. So and this is a sci-fi game, so it's like, oh, this is like right in their wheelhouse. But again, like that doesn't always work because like the team for Avengers was really good too, which is the Tomb Raider team, if I'm not mistaken. So it's like doesn't always work, but like I think I was pretty high in this game. But yes, I never thought it was gonna be like a 9 out of 10, if you will. Maybe 7.5, maybe an 8. Like we're just like, wow, this is really fun. Every time I play this game, it sneaks up my top 10 a little higher. Like, oh, I gotta put one. I gotta put it one more above. It's almost crazy how much I'm enjoying this game. And I was really high on it. And again, I didn't think it would be this amazing. So, I'm on chapter 11 or so, and I think the story's great. I think the takes on the characters are really great. I think the graphics are ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous how good this game looks, which again, I don't really know if I like gathered that from the trailers. I don't know. Yeah. So the concepts of the worlds are really cool. There's just a lot going on here, and it's high stakes like comic book stuff going on. Like, and it's not just like we're just like doing a bank heist job in space. Like, no, it's like I think the world is ending. Maybe the galaxy. I don't know. We have to stop this or whatever. It's huge stakes, and I really like that.
And they do a good job of working up to that, because it's not at the beginning. It's definitely not huge.
No, it's very goofy at the beginning. Yeah,
more for funsies.
And you see this in the demos or whatever. Or the hands-on time or whatever, but it's the mission where you're like, we have to sell a monster to some like crazy queen lady, and like who are you gonna sell? Who's on your team or whatever, who's a monster, and it's like it's goofy, but like things like spiral out of control very quickly.
They do.
And it's all very connected in a really cool way. And I think we were all talking in chat how just like confident it seems in terms of how they're using their characters. The confidence levels of Spider-Man, I would say. I'm not trying to say this is as good as Spider-Man or Miles Morales or anything like that, but I am saying the confidence is there. And it's a different type of game. I think like we haven't really gotten a really cool linear experience since like maybe Uncharted 4 or Lost Legacy. Like I don't know how many
not a fun one, at least. We've had like Last of Us Part 2, I'd argue, kind of linear with open areas.
Sure,
right? But not that we could argue all day about whether or not that game's fun. I certainly had fun playing it, but it feels like, even if there's some similarities, totally different genres. Like this is the Uncharted comparison is way more apt for this one.
Yes.
Jeff, were you the same way? Were you kind of thinking, as long as it's better than Avengers, we're good? Or were you expecting, with all the previews, like this is actually going to be amazing? Did you already know it was going to be amazing?
No, I had no idea it was going to be this amazing. I was just kind of riding the waves of optimism and positivity, kind of like Kyle was a little bit. He was a little more than me, but hearing more and more from hands-on previews of like, no, this game's really fun. I was like, cool, fun. Yeah, right. That's what I kept latching on to.
That word kept on getting used. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, cool, fun. I'm just going to expect fun and nothing more. And I love being wrong about that, because it's fun and story. And my God, the writing of the dialogue is just aces for these characters.
They really buried the lead in those trailers. Like, because there's a lot of unfunny stuff in the trailers, and this game is super funny.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It's made me laugh out loud several times, which not many games can do that. Unless they're like a straight up, just psycho comedy, like it's like Psychonauts 2, for example, just goofy with a few poignant moments, like I talked about before. but like mostly just kind of crazy off the wall, or if it's truly meant to be like Borderlands, where sure there's some stakes in those games, but I don't know about you, I never felt super invested in the characters. It was more like this is a fun ride and there's lots of jokey jokes, and I know some people don't like that stuff. This to me feels more like there's joking happening, but I care a lot about these characters. Like I really do, and that's a really hard thing to achieve. So I find myself
especially when
a
you're
lot of the jokes.
Controlling one character for the most part. I mean, you technically are. It's a Star-Lord game. But weirdly, they did a great job of selling the team to you.
Absolutely, because you are playing a Star-Lord, but like at no point am I ever like, this is Star-Lord the video game. No, like I definitely feel like I'm part of a team, because the game is like Mass Effect 2 or 3, where like the game suddenly became more about like pausing that menu and like choosing moves for people if that's the way you were playing. And this is
making sure you talk to them in the ship, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of Mass Effects parallel in this game where it's like, all right, we're done with that mission. Now we're back on the ship. Do you want to go talk to everybody? Yeah, I do, because I love all these characters.
Yeah, I got to make sure I go to every room and talk to everyone and interact with every item.
Oh, and also stand still. Oh, someone started talking, like just ambiently in the ship. I gotta. What was that? What are you
there's
saying
a lot of ambient conversation. I really respect that they went the extra mile with that stuff, because I
get annoyed when I cut it off by accident a lot.
Yeah,
and I like try and go like, oh, I wanted to hear the rest of what.
Oh, I hated that. Yeah. And there was a lot of, every time I do a huddle, I've never had a similar like huddle speech. I think like all the huddles are different and contextual to what you're doing as well. So I'm like, I've
had one repeat, and I don't know if that's a glitch or just because I finally kind of hit the loop where now they're just on shuffle. Like maybe I hit them all, now they're just on shuffle. I don't know, but and I am also almost at the end of the game, so I'm fine with that. Done a lot of huddles in my time.
Yeah,
and we'll talk about that in a little bit.
I've only done 3. I'm at the beginning of chapter 11. I've done 3. So
okay.
I'm on easy though, so I'm not really having to use it a whole lot.
Use your huddles as much as you can, man. They're fun. They're silly.
The thing I also love is closing the fridge every time I walk by it, the fridge door. So I've been doing that, and I hit a point.
It's that way at his house too, in the garage.
Yeah,
or in the basement.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
that's true. I hit a point in the story where they actually talk about it when you close it. There's like a group meeting happening in there, and if you close it right after they're done talking, then there's like a little chat about it. And I won't say what it's just really funny. Like they include these little moments that they don't have to include. These little arguments, these little side conversations, these moments that they don't have to have in there, but they do. And they're really, really well done. And I understand some folks can get tired of the banter, especially the grumpy grumps that are out there, that nothing's good enough for them and nothing's funny enough. But I find the banter not only to be funny, which it is, but it's so well acted. I'm not like, I haven't once paused to be like, hey, I wonder who the voice actor is. I'm just so drawn into these characters.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing like Troy Baker or Ashley Berkshire. You know what I mean? I'm not
which
hearing...
is not them for once. So.
Right. Yeah, it's refreshing. It's very refreshing.
But whoever this cast is, and I probably will dig into it at some point. It's fine if you do, but I am just enjoying these characters because I mentioned this in our chat too. I was not this connected to all of the Guardians of the Galaxy's characters from the movies as I am now in the game. I was connected to some of them. They did a good job. I think James Gunn did an amazing job in both movies of bringing out some really good things about the characters. But characters like Drax in the game is shining way brighter than he ever did in the movies. And I still think he was fun in the movies. I didn't think he was bad. But in the game, and Kyle, you're almost to that part, and Jeff, I'm not sure how far you are into it, but there's some missions later where Drax really comes to the forefront. I mean, they all kind of get a chance to shine. Earlier on, it's Rocket, and then, they all get a chance to shine in the conversations and in the main storylines. And dude, it's good stuff. Like the guy who's doing Drax's voice, one of you mentioned that whoever does the voice of Groot needs to give Vin Diesel some training on how he can actually deliver these lines effectively. The I am Groot lines. Because those are really good too.
Because it sounds, it almost
voice actor that played. Oh, go ahead.
Well, sometimes when he says I am Groot, it sounds like what he's actually trying to say.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think of. Because they're just 3 words, and you're like, that makes no sense that you can contextualize those 3 words in a certain way. But there's a part where Star-Lord, it's very early in the game, where Star-Lord enters the room with everybody, and it's empty, and I think it's like the Nova, whatever. And it's like an empty room, and Star-Lord's just like, hello, and Groot goes, I am Groot, and you're like, all right. I knew exactly what he's saying. It's so funny.
It had an anybody home vibe to it.
Yes, yeah. Who the voice actor who did what?
Oh, I was gonna say that the voice actor who did Drax, I think, is the same voice actor who is Drax in the Telltale game. So, this guy's making like a career out of being Drax, like voice acting. Yeah.
I would not have recognized that because I played that like once or whatever.
I think I played.
It was
episode.
good. It was entertaining. It was very good.
I didn't play all the way through, but I actually really liked the first episode, and I have no idea why I didn't keep on playing.
Dang,
I think you fight Thanos in that first episode.
I think you do. I think there's like a part where it's like,
I don't know why.
We're here now. Yeah,
that's a lot. Yeah, the speaking of Drax, there are plenty of collectibles. Well, I shouldn't say plenty, but there's outfits to collect, and you can miss them very easily if you're not one to.
Yeah.
I have a problem. I cannot leave an area as soon as I'm given control without scanning and looking, and I'm always trying to find the extra stuff. I'm sure I've missed stuff still, even though I've done that. But I have a problem. I recognize it, and I'm trying to get help.
I just got the upgrade where you can kind of more highlight the collectibles in your area.
Which is very helpful to do.
Yeah, very helpful. But at the same time, there was one in the caves where it's completely dark, and there's a character that's lighting the way for you. And there's one collectible that's like way on a ledge, and I'm like, there's literally no way to get up there. This game is bullcrap. I want a refund.
Let it go.
I can't let it go.
When you get to those outfits, I actually never really did anything with them. I was like, I'll look at these later. Like as I collected them, I saw the little kind of thumbnail of them and thought, oh, that one looks cool. And then I didn't think. I'm not one to usually want to apply crazy outfits during a game. I don't know why. It kind of breaks immersion for me personally.
Same here. I'm right there with you.
I'm just like, leave the outfits on that the designers had and just kind of let them look how they're supposed to, quote unquote, supposed to look for this game. I know that's probably kind of silly, but
it's not, because I'm totally the same way. Like maybe on a second playthrough, I'll play through with one of the goofier outfits or something, but
some of them look really cool. I'm sure they're in the comics, but there's like these Apocalypse ones, and there's ones that I had never seen.
For the Apocalypse one looks absolutely insane. It's like almost distracting.
Yeah, very, very cool.
I'm changing you back, Groot. You're a little.
But I went and I was looking through the ones I collected so far, and the one for Drax, I was happening to read some of the descriptions, like skim some of the descriptions of them, and Drax is kind of the one. I don't know if they all do this for their outfits, but he's the one who clearly is writing it from his perspective about his costumes.
Oh.
And so, like,
I gotta read these now.
For the one from the movie, he actually he refers to it as the Earth's film version of us. Like, he talks about it as if the Marvel movies are happening on Earth within this game universe.
That's funny. I love it.
It's like just kind of this little meta moment. It kind of hit me. I was like, the way they wrote that is they're acknowledging that Marvel movies exist back on Earth where Peter's from. And I don't know, something about that I just loved. That
is so wild. I gotta read those, man.
Yeah, I don't know if they're all written that way, but his definitely were. He had another one that talks about going to the fighting pits and stuff like that.
Yeah, the brawler outfit. Yeah, that's. I think I have him wearing that right now.
Or that Peter made fun of him because one of them, the scars looked cooler than his do, but he's not sure he agrees. It's like things like that. Like there's little comments in there. So I thought that was cool. Again, this game is just spilling over with personality, and I wasn't expecting it. It's probably because the game was announced and released so quickly, and we've talked about this a lot. Even since you guys have joined the show, we've talked a lot about how why can't more games do this, where they just keep their heads down, keep working on it, and then announce it when it's almost ready, and then release it. And then when they finally do that, I'm very guilty of this. My expectations are low. I'm like, oh well, they didn't have enough time to really make this that good. This isn't going to be that good. But if you think back to when was it Mankind Divided was the last Deus Ex game, right? 2015.
Well, these guys did the last Tomb Raider as well. So they did Mankind Divided.
The Tomb Raider.
Was that one Shadow?
Someone should look it up.
Yeah.
But I was not expecting this to be that great, and it is, and it's got so much attention to detail in there. And there's even a scene that we chatted about that Kyle completely missed because it's optional. So they even added in some optional scenes. So when you play it through again,
God, that scene is hilarious too. Oh my God,
so
dang
funny.
It!
Sorry, Kyle.
Yeah, you're right. Shadow. I was confusing that with the second one that they did. That Crystal Dynamics did.
Well, and it's crazy is like that you've heard. I've heard of someone from Square Enix is working on a Guardians of the Galaxy game for the last 2 or 3 years, but it was such an outlandish, dumb rumor that no one paid it any attention.
Yeah, you always just go, okay.
So when it actually happened, like when it was announced, I didn't even go, oh my God, this was rumored. Like, because I had put that so far out of my head that this has been a rumor going on for the last few years. Because it is outlandish, like a Guardians of the Galaxy game. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
And here we are. It's kind of silly. And this is like one of the best superhero games ever. Like, I mean, we're talking about people who like really feel confident about their IPs that they're taking. It's the Arkham series, it's Spider-Man, it's this game. Like that's.
And I would say if you've missed Eidos Montreal games in the past, they're still worth revisiting. I still think the last 2 Deus Ex games are some of the most underappreciated games of the past generation or so. They're so good. Mankind Divided was just horribly underrated and underappreciated. It's such a good game.
I recall Kyle and I were podcasting that year. We did a top 10 list, and I think it was in your 10 somewhere, and you were like, people just aren't talking about this game enough. It's not fair. Like, and I think it didn't it crush the DLC plans or something too? Like
they did one. Yeah. They did one, right? One big DLC.
There was going to be more because there was a lot of loose ends at the end of that game, and like they did one, and then it didn't sell well.
They're like something about being in prison or something like that.
They even said that this game is like it's on indefinite hiatus. You know, like this series is on indefinite. It just didn't sell well, and I'm just like, how soul crushing is that? Like,
so that's sad, but the fact that meant they could all shift over to work on this game is a good thing because they've delivered. So if you're listening and you're not too familiar with what this game is, it is. To me, it's one of the most cinematic games I've played probably since I played Jedi Fallen Order. There's been other cinematic games, but this one just hits that same vibe to me personally. As I'm playing it, it reminds me a lot of my experience with Jedi Fallen Order, where they take me right into that Star Wars universe back with Jedi Fallen Order, and I feel like I am that character interacting with real characters in that universe. It all just feels right, and I just think they nail that same vibe with this one. But then it also has some of that charm and banter that I think Jedi Fallen Order was pretty serious. It had some banter, some fun moments, but
with like the guy the captain of the ship, whatever, the pilot of the ship.
Yes,
the shorter guy. Yeah, you had some funny, fun moments.
Some comic relief here and there, but it didn't need to be.
I call him Alien Danny DeVito.
That's exactly what he was. He even had like the scruff. Oh yeah, exactly. But then if you combine Jedi Fallen Order, some of the cinematic moments, kind of that same level design too. Sorry, Dan and Derek, who think that level design should be more like other games, but where it's pretty linear and there are optional side paths that are totally missable that I think are worth pursuing because you're going to unlock some stuff. You're going to find some stuff. And then it also includes, I think, the charm and banter of an Uncharted game. Like I would put it up there with Uncharted games in terms of its success and making you care about characters just by seamlessly integrating conversation throughout. Like there's never a time where you're going to want the sound off because you've got to hear what's being said all the time. It's really, really good.
I would even say that this is probably harder to write than an Uncharted game would be because the language has to be a very specific in-universe way of speaking.
That's true.
When you're an alien or something and you got Peter Quill as a translator for some aliens that you go talk to, especially on Nowhere.
Yeah.
It's just like, I got to commend them even more for the writing, though, because it just felt like very much in tune with the Guardians that we know, whether you know them from the movies or whether you know them from the comics. It's like a blend of both. It's insane to me how good the writing is. Not to undersell how fun the actual fighting is, because that is a ton of fun.
Yeah, the combat reminds me, and tell me if you guys think I'm crazy. I feel like it's a mix. It's somewhere between Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy 15. Those are the two that came to mind.
Final Fantasy, yeah.
Kingdom Hearts is much simpler and more repetitive. So don't get me wrong. If you thought that combat was super repetitive, it kind of is, and it is what it is. But for the most part, you're controlling one character, and you have some hotkeys to trigger specials and combos from other characters that build up over time. So I feel like it's got some Kingdom Hearts similarities and some Final Fantasy 15 similarities in that you're actually sort of indirectly controlling your teammates, not just for combos, but also for them to deliver their special moves. But it's not quite as complex as Final Fantasy 15. Like that one got a little bit even difficult with complexity that was added in that game. So I feel like it's somewhere in the range there. Do you guys?
I would have never made this connection, but I think that's a perfect. I think that's a perfect comparison. I think that's very interesting and perfect connection.
I've only played 15 and 7 remake, but that was enough for me to feel the same vibes. Which is, I mean, it's a Square game. I know they published it, they didn't develop it, but still. So it's like kind of like, oh, that makes sense.
Oh yeah, I didn't connect.
Well, the big shift from all three of those examples, whether it's 7 remake or the other two I mentioned, they're of course all Square games, which is interesting. But this is also a Square game.
That is interesting. Yeah.
So they must really like this combat style. But also this, you're only controlling one character. You cannot switch to anybody else like you can in remake. but also you're just ranged. All those other games, you are melee. You're kind of leading the way with your melee attacks, and you can do some ranged things with some magic and whatnot, but you're always melee. And in this one, you do have melee attacks, and they are super useful.
Actually, the melee feels really good in this. Sometimes I prefer beating the heck out of people.
But there's also times when it's great to use your hover ability, which is the first ability for Peter that you unlock.
Yeah.
You can hover with your jet boots for a set amount of time and kind of just kite around. I just kind of do a big circle and just start unloading all the attacks or like giving directions to other characters. That feels really good. Like even later in the game when you've got big swarms of super tough enemies, that actually kind of helps me see where everything is. And I'm going to take out their healer or support type enemy first, and so that I kind of like it. Adds a little bit of strategy to it, but also it's fun to just quickly hold the left shoulder button or L1. I'm playing on PS5, L1, and just start unleashing their attacks just one after the other. It's just really satisfying.
Yeah, grab them with Groot, grenade them with Rocket, stab them with Drax, and then finish it off with Gamora. It's like I don't know. It just feels so good watching everybody just jump in and
it does
and just maim somebody really good.
I like that they have some systems like the stagger bar. They have some systems in there that you can try to strategize, but also if you kind of just
they have an elemental right next to their health bar too, where you'd be like, hey, they're weakened by this.
You can do a combat scan later, so you can like get more information about their weaknesses and stuff like that. It's it's more in depth than I thought it would be, to be honest. So
yeah, Peter has these elemental attacks that he can adjust his guns to use those elements. I just got the last one. That's the spot I am in the game.
Oh, okay. I just got the third because I'm right past the cave. Which there's a big reveal, like kind of. Oh man,
that cave reveal is great. That's all I'm gonna say.
That cave reveal is like, oh man, yeah, that's.
I'm not gonna spoil it, but I saw a thing and I go, I know what's going on.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw something,
I wanted to message you guys so bad about that. Especially Kyle, knowing how much you know about the comic stuff. Jeff, I don't know if you were a comic book reader. Jeff, I don't want to assume that you weren't. I don't know if you talked about.
I know about a lot of the characters that I just saw in chapter 10.
Oh, and may I just say, my comic book knowledge is literally just Wikipedia. Like I don't read a lot
fair
of
enough.
comics.
Okay,
I just whenever I hear about a new thing coming out, I go, oh, I'm in a rabbit hole on this.
But there's a couple of reveals. That one and. Well, there's just some stuff that the characters that show up and some things that they do that are just
there's some familiar Guardians characters too, or character singular, whatever, that shows up from the past couple movies.
Really, really good. And they tie in some Marvel stuff, which is great in some small ways, usually like little Easter egg type ways, but really good.
I don't think there's a wasted made up word in this entire game. I think everything is something from Marvel.
I was gonna say I love reading there's like a codex or something you can read at one of the Nova Corps places, and every name that you read, you end up encountering like almost all those people
files, right?
Unless they're dead. Yeah, exactly.
Files,
Every one of those people you end up encountering later. Like, and it's just, I was like, that's crazy attention to detail to be like.
I thought that was really cool too, because you started reading some of the like police profiles or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they maybe start showing up, or maybe not. I don't know. It's great.
Maybe not. Who knows? Maybe some of them are dead. How can they show up if they're dead?
How can they show up if they're dead?
Who knows? Probably a flashback. But the other character that's jumping out to me, and it's a side character, and slight spoilers. If you want to skip ahead, you don't want to hear anything else about this game. You've heard we all like it. You can skip ahead a little bit. So fair warning. But this is very slight spoilers, just about a very commonly known character in Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
Channing Tatum size spoiler.
This is Channing Tatum size. Yes, I agree with that.
Really deep cut. Okay.
That is a deep cut. So that'd be Mantis, who I liked her portrayal in the movies. I did. I thought she was charming and had some funny lines. And especially, even in Infinity War, especially, she had a very important role to play. So, like, some interesting moments with her in the movies, but I didn't know much more about her other than she had, like, these big eyes and talked kind of funny and then could kind of, like, affect the way you feel. Like, I didn't really know much about her. I didn't have much investment in her character. So, like, something happens to her in the movies, I was like, oh, it's a bummer. But, like, you know what I mean? I don't know if that sounds bad, but I just didn't care about her too much. Yeah. Games like this, or I shouldn't say games, stories like this can take a character that maybe before you had kind of written off as interesting side character, but who cares? Now I'm a fan. Like, I like what they've done with her character in this. I really enjoyed what they did with her.
She's not like much like most MCU characters, not power neutered. She's got like the full spectrum of her powers, like in this game, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
very
that's
funny
true.
too.
Yeah.
The actress, the writing, like Jeff was saying, the writing for her character was perfect.
She gets a
And then the
major
way
moment and a thing that we all just went through. That was
Yep.
very cool.
Yeah, I can
the
bet.
writing was great,
I
and
can
her
bet
delivery.
money the writers were like, "Oh, I love writing this character. Please let me
Yeah.
write this character," because she says the dumbest nicknames that are so freaking
The
funny.
nicknames
Yeah.
are great,
Star
and getting
Guy, I
getting
like that
names
one.
wrong a lot. She called him Stir Fry once, so you pick up on that.
Star
Yes.
Fry.
Stir Fry. And then getting names wrong
Furry-
sometimes.
What does she call
Little
Rocket?
Fuzzy.
Furry? Little Fuzzy.
Little
Yeah.
Fuzzy. Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
So
so funny.
so it's just really good. So but yeah, I do think the combat was good. I love the huddle feature. So what happens there is that's like most of these kind of games, you'll have an ability to kind of, okay, let's superpower everyone. Let's heal anyone who's down. Let's recharge all of our special abilities. So the huddle, he actually holds his little Walkman up in the air and calls everyone in. They all actually huddle up, and they're playing this kind of like hype music in the background.
Mhm.
It kind of sounds, is that the opening of The Greatest Show? Is that the same song from opening of Greatest Show? That's what it sounds like. Okay, so I just
you
wanted
would
to say that
know about that
I'll say that
horrible
for
movie.
Jeff because he loves it. So anyway, and then basically they say some stuff, and then the big words that you need to focus on highlight in the background, and then you have two choices to respond. One choice only powers you up because you didn't quite hear what they were saying and respond appropriately. That's happened to me once, and it was really
It
funny. And they
happened to
were
me
like,
once too, and
and
it
they're
was so
like,
You know
funny.
what's funny?
Okay,
I
Peter.
I get it wrong every time. I've gotten it right once or twice. So like, talk about a guy who can't read the room at all. That's me.
So
you know?
hilarious.
That is
Like
amazing.
Gamora one time said, "Well, thank God you're not a life coach." When she
Yeah.
got,
No, I no the amount
I
of
haven't heard
like
that.
how pissed off everybody is that I've
Yeah.
heard in this game, and there are a lot of them because I fail this every time.
yeah.
man.
And one of them will say something different. It's like, "This is why we don't come to you, Quill." I think like one time, like Rocket said. Like it's just like there are some like real big downers in this
Yeah.
one. Yeah, if you
Because
screw
there
it up.
was one at least one huddle that I can think of where I messed it up, and it was because the words that were floating weren't in the options.
Right. Yeah.
So
At the
I
beginning, it's
struggled to
obvious
find the
that it's not.
opposite of the words, and I was like, I guess it's the right one, and it was not the right one.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a few like that there's no real strong clues. You just kind of have to guess.
Yeah.
But I'm fine with it because you're still, Peter's still powered up for that moment, and it's
Yeah,
fine.
I'm still
You know,
shielded like crazy for it, and
Yeah.
it'll be
double
fine.
damage or whatever. Yeah.
But it's also done in such a charming way. It's hard to get mad at it when that kind of stuff
Exactly. I'm fighting people to New Kids on the Block, which is like
happens.
I
Yeah.
love
that's
I
such a
love
dream for
that
me
whole
for 3-year-old
thing
Jeff, for
where it's
4-year-old
just like
Jeff. or
I'm
whatever.
blowing up a giant like Cthulhu space monster or whatever, while I don't know, like everybody Wang Chung tonight plays. Like it's
Yes.
it's literally my favorite thing ever in this game. Like you're just like, I'm doing this cool action moment in some cool 80s song that there's not one song on this list that I don't know. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and I imagine that's the case for a lot of people if you're over the age of, I don't know, 30. But
So what do you think about that flashback setting where you truly have control of an actual cassette tape and can listen through and read the lyrics for that whole album? Did you
I love
fast
that.
forward and listen to any of that? Like I listened to like 3 songs just to see.
I listened to it quite a bit of songs, yeah, and I loved being able. When I realized you could flip it over and read the lyrics along the side, I was just like, this is literally what I used to do as a kid.
That's what I. Yep.
Yeah. So you've got the cassette tape fold out, and you can look
Yeah.
at the words. You can zoom in and look at the lyrics, and then you can actually. And of course, you can't hit next. It's not a CD player, guys.
No, you have to
This
fast
is-
forward.
You have to hit fast forward and just kind of guess and hit play, and then it might be in the middle of the next song. Who knows? That's the
Yeah.
beauty of it.
Oh, it's wonderful.
But I like that, and of course, he's as the flashback kiddo. He's rocking the mullet, and
Oh man, what an
He's an
ugly
ugly
kid. Yep.
that's
super ugly kid.
ugly kid.
Only
Sorry,
a
he
Whatever
turned
dad
out-
happened to
loved
his
that kid.
eye, he deserved it. That's what I gotta say.
Yeah.
Can I
it
say-
was-
That was consistent though. I thought his hair as a kid was bad, and I think his hair as an adult's also bad. I don't like his
It's
hair.
less
Hey, at
offensive,
least-
but his hair gets
somebody
the
calls it
due.
out.
Yeah, someone gets it gets its due right, like made fun of in this
It
game,
does.
I would say. So.
As it should. But again, it's not. It's one of those things where it's kind of adds yet again another layer of he likes his hair like this. Like I don't know. It's a little bit out there.
He
It's,
does
it's
what he
basically
likes
like
to
a
do,
grown-up
yeah.
mullet.
Yeah.
But the final attacks for each character are super satisfying, and I also like that because you can upgrade. There's some slight upgrades. I'm talking super light RPG elements, if you want to call them that. You're really just unlocking perks at a table where Rocket can help you upgrade some things and give you some new moves or increase your shields, or you can unlock things with ability points that I think are pretty easy to come by, and they start racking up pretty quickly. But then there's a final move for everybody that's story related. So you have to get to certain story moments with each character to get their final attack. And those are super satisfying. They also come after pretty emotional moments for each of them. Happened for Peter. I'm missing one still, but each one that's unlocked has been after, I think, a pretty special / cool, poignant moment where it's like, whoa, they just went through something, and then it'll just come up and say they have their final attack is ready, and then you just destroy everything. So
Yeah.
final attacks are cool. I like those, and they don't charge up nearly as fast as the others. I don't see any kind of counter or bar that's filling up. It's just once you use it and then you bring up their special attack again, that one's grayed out for a little while longer than the other ones because it's super powered. It's crazy. So anyway, I do think that some of the character moments are surprisingly touching. There's some items you can find if you're like me and don't like to leave an area without scanning and finding everything. You'll find random items and it'll tell you a new conversation option is unlocked back on the ship. And
yeah,
then
I had one with Groot that was like, I was like, oh, I didn't know any of this about Groot. The movies don't explore any of this. They just go, he's the last of his kind. Don't worry about it. And the game, once I found his collectible and I was able to talk to him about his past and like where he came from, man, I was like, woof.
Yeah. And it's the same with all of them. They all have these moments because there are times in this game where the character more than anybody else that I find is easiest to dislike is Rocket, and that's his personality. He's dislikable. Like that's one of his character traits is to be antagonistic and dislikable, and yet they wrote him in a way that even though he's kind of a roller coaster with you throughout the game, like I love that little dude. Like he's frustrating and he gets really mad and he's super selfish, but at the same time, like you kind of see they do a good job of writing an arc for his character that grows, and it's really
absolutely
really good, really well done.
The stuff that he mentions with Lila is in the Telltale game, by the way. I do remember that at least in the Telltale game. Okay. I don't remember if it got 2 seasons or just 1, but it was good when I did play it.
Just 1, but yeah, that's one.
Probably delisted.
Would like to go back. Yeah, I know you can't probably even download it anymore.
Yeah.
Last thing I'll say real quick about the story, and then if you guys have any other thoughts before we move on from it, I do think Kyle, you mentioned that the stakes are super high, like they usually are in all these movies and shows and games. They have to have high stakes. But I think the stakes are high in a super unique way. It's not the same way that they normally are. Kind of like in the same way that the stakes with Thanos in the Infinity War and Endgame movies were just a little more unique. The way that they set it up. Here's what they're trying to do. Here's their reasoning behind it. And I feel like similarly here, the reasoning behind what the evil in this game, that's all I'll call it, the evil in this game, the reason it's trying to do what it's trying to do is unique. And then the pathway to get there is also like, whoa, this is really creative.
I will tell people it's not really a spoiler, but it's just a heads up. You don't really understand the full scope of what's happening until like chapter 8 or 9.
Totally.
Yeah. That's when you're like, oh, this is the threat. Okay, got it. Whew, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
And that's cool the way that it kind of, it's like a mystery until then. You're like, there's an air of something being wrong, and you don't know what it is yet. Yeah, and I love the way that it unfolded. Yeah.
Yeah, something's definitely off. I also do like that the environments that you go to are very different. You kind of go from modern spaceship to jungle type places. One place is so red. The opening spot is very red and kind of pink, that weird gum looking material that's everywhere. And then I'm on, well, I won't say where it is, but every environment is just very different. And I like that. And it's also not a game that is super short, which is fantastic. I expected this to be, I heard linear. I heard it's not super long, but right now I'm loving it. I don't want it to end, but I'm almost at the end, and I think I've sunk a good 12, 13 hours into it, and I think I probably have another 2-3 hours left. So that's a solid, in my opinion, solid linear game. You know,
I love games that long, to be honest.
Man, if they made Avengers like this and made the story that long to begin with, even just a 15-hour Avengers game. Yeah, I would have been like, man, can you believe that story instead of all the freaking stupid side mission bullcrap?
You have to grind doing AIM missions before you continue your story.
Oh, God.
What?
Go to the harm room. No, I don't want to do any of that.
I don't want to do that.
I've been playing the game. I don't need to train. Why are you doing
the game is training?
This late game? This is dumb.
Practice. So yeah, I am with you. I do think they've totally delivered on this thing. I'm excited to see how it wraps up. I would be shocked if something happened that all of a sudden made me change my opinion on this thing. This game is totally in the conversation for Game of the Year here in a couple months. I'm very excited.
So wild to think about that.
Yeah, I know.
It's so wild. I did not, even with the first reveal and I was like defending the game as this is gonna be fun, guys. Calm down.
Yeah, same.
I did not expect this is gonna be game of the year material.
Never in a million years.
Ever. Not in a million years.
I had written it off as like this might be honorable mention, and could be a fun play over Thanksgiving when I finally get around to it. But finally gave in, and I'm so glad that I did. Dude, this is totally worth $60 if you're wondering.
Yeah.
This is 100% worth it. And get it on if you got a PS5 or Series X, get it there. Because
So
it looks really good. The environments, the lighting,
it really does.
It looks fantastic. So, all right, let's move on.
Put it on quality mode if your TV can handle it, because performance mode, I was like, oh, that's not good at all. Let's move that back over.
It looks really nice.
Yeah.
All right. So, and I'm sure we'll talk more about this game too, especially as we wrap it up. This might be the kind of game that deserves a spoiler conversation. So maybe we'll dedicate closing of next week or the week after, if we've all finished it. Whoever's finished it can just. I kind of want to dive into the whole story because there's a lot.
Yeah, I would love to.
There is a
break
lot.
This one open.
There's a lot of moving parts. Even like, oh, man, the movies don't even hold a candle to how much crap is going on in this game. Yep. Like, there's so much stuff going on and new characters and stuff.
Yep. Just make sure you close that fridge, guys. All right. Yes.